become tyrannical. Deceptive. Dystopian. Fraudulent. Factual. Truthful. Direct knowledge. Has been taken away from the masses for the purposes of control. But enough is enough, dear friends. Now is the time to take what is rightfully ours. Welcome to the Syncretism Society Virtual Academy.
Welcome to the Syncretism Society
Acchaix channel and the Simulacrum.
How you doing, Phantom? How's my audio?
Great. Loud and clear. Yeah, for sure, brother. So, you stimulated a lot of interest in your subject, got a lot of good feedback from folks, and they love it. And I've noticed your subscribers have gone up a little bit.
Yeah, I got about 2,000 after that.
Beautiful.
2 weeks ago. Yeah, in the interim between then and now, it's been about 2,000 increase.
All right. Well, we want 20,000 this time, guys. So everyone listening, we want 20 more thousand. This channel needs to grow massively and spread. Okay, so hit the subscribe button and share it to even people that you don't know. Everyone. Okay? Alrighty. So I think we can continue on from last week. I mean, it was great what you were talking about. One of the questions I had for you, though, if we could kick it off, is when you were in jail and you were in the library, in charge of the library, where's all that coming from?
Sorry.
Okay, we're good. All right. What was the thing that you read? What was the thing that sparked you on this journey, please?
Well, my journey started, I was a completely different person. I was someone who had been raised in Southern Baptist indoctrination, and I was trying to prove through these secular histories, archaeology, and all the historical monographs, I wanted to prove what I believe. This is what we fundamentally do every day anyway. This is a part of human nature, so it's bias confirmation. We want more evidence that what we believe is true. So I spent about a decade doing that, and in being honest with myself, I just realized that what I am discovering is verifiable from multiple different vantage points, and yet it doesn't comport with what I was taught.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's basically how my journey started. It started trying to prove every element of the Bible's historicity, and that's not what I found. That's not what I found at all.
Yeah, it's a literary work. It's not a literal work, right?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
That's what I've been.
I'm not denigrating the scriptures.
No.
The scriptures was actually in ancient times. It was never in the form of a book. It was in the form of a chamber that you walked in, and you actually had to walk to the book that you wanted to read, pull it off the wall, unscroll it, and you would spend a day or two just absorbing that one scroll. It wasn't as simple as a book, and there was a lot more works. But over the millennia, people had censured which works they wanted included and which works they didn't until we have the Bible we have today.
That's right.
Jason, I have Logan here. Nice to join some space with you.
Hi, Logan. I can't see you, but I can hear you really good.
Okay, cool.
Put your camera on.
What do you mean, put my camera? Oh, it's okay. You can hear my voice. But anyway, what I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned this, and I have a few questions for you, but I would like you to at least give your elevator pitch to those that are just joining that don't know anything about your channel. What is your channel all about? Like, what's the main nucleus of your channel?
Okay, when my very first video was released about 3 years ago, my channel was going to go in a different direction. It took a motorcycle accident just a couple of weeks after my first video was released, and I didn't release another video for a year because it changed my entire perspective. My second video is about simulation theory. My first video was just about the Phoenix. It's called Weapon in the Dome. And I didn't want to call it Weapon in the Dome, but there's no way to really understand my thousands of data points on the Phoenix phenomenon if you're going to entertain the fact, or actually the presented fact, that the sky is real. If you're gonna maintain the paradigm that everything you see in the sky is an actual solar system, then you're never going to be able to really comprehend my data. Because my data comes from multiple different vantage points. The Phoenix phenomenon is real. It happens somewhere on this world every 138 years. It is fully documented. I keep releasing new videos because I keep getting more data. But my channel was really going to be about the Phoenix history and everything I had discovered. But once I had my motorcycle accident, for about 4 minutes, I walked around. I didn't have an out-of-body experience. I was still walking around. I just didn't understand how bad I was. I had hit a concrete pylon at about 47 miles an hour, upside down, totaled my bike out, and I had rebar going through all the way through my arm, scarred, took all my tattoos out right here and in the back. I didn't even know I had rebar hanging out of me. But for 4 minutes, I was absolutely lucid. I was enjoying just walking around talking to people who were actually horrified looking at me. I didn't know I was covered in blood. I didn't know my clothes had been ripped off or were on a barbed wire fence. I didn't know any of this. All I knew was I was walking around absolutely interested in other people, conversating with them, even though they were panicking and throwing t-shirts over my head, stopping bleeding. I didn't know what was going on. But when I came out of that, in ICU, everything switched for me. Within minutes of being home, I pulled all my notes out. I spent an entire year basically reassessing all my data, pulling out flash drives, all my research notes, and everything clicked. I started watching YouTube videos, which I'd never done before because I don't trust the internet as a source of reliable information. And I started watching YouTube videos and realized how much had already been entertained by the scientific community on simulation theory. All my data made sense after that motorcycle accident. All my historical studies, I now found a venue, simulation theory, that made sense of all the anomalies that I couldn't put together before.
Cool. Would you say that the motorcycle accident that you had was supposed to happen for you, so you get on this new, kind of layer in life and like level up, I kind of call it? But would you say?
I'm not. I can agree with you. I can see that sentiment. I can understand why you would believe that. I can't say yay or nay. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if that was it or not. I don't know if I would have come to the conclusion or not. I just know that I know how to ride a bike, and my Harley's about 1,000 pounds. I got a fat boy. It's got a lot of aftermarket stuff on it, and it's really unusual for me to have that accident. So I can agree with you in that, but I don't want to try and sound like it's so metaphysical it was meant to happen. I don't know.
No, I was just asking your take on it. I'm just curious, just kind of getting to know the feel of
it. Did happen, and it had a hell of an effect. It actually stopped me from releasing videos for a year.
Cool. So the other question I have for you is this chamber you mentioned that people would go into, that was the origination of the holy text called the Bible. Where did you come up with these concepts? Where did you read books? Did you find them from somebody that taught you? Can you tell the audience a little bit about how you found this information?
Well, to answer the first question, in the ancient world, all books were something that you visited. You didn't take a book home. You actually went to the temple and you chose the appropriate chamber of what you were interested in. And different rooms and different chambers had different priestesses that some of them would offer you an apple, some of them would offer you different things, and if you accepted it, it was like a blessing from the goddess. You have to understand, our original societies were all matriarchal. The patriarchal takeover came much later, and it was recorded in the entire paradigm that you have come to know as the Anunnaki history. But Anunnaki history comes very late. Matriarchal societies were ruling this world for thousands of years under the vapor canopy, long before.
Can you tell the audience what the matriarchal means, in case those that don't know what that means?
Okay. We're talking about societies, millions of people structured in a society of males and females, where basically the The female gender is the one, they are acting as all the administrative capacitors. They are the ones in charge of the administration of finance, the rule of the people, the laying down the law, the courts, the queenship, and it's all in recognition of the oversoul, which was believed to be female. The belief in a male god comes very late in antiquity. The very earliest calendars were all stellar calendars, and those were attached to goddess cultures, goddess religions, goddess totem societies. And it was like I said, the patriarchal history, it is so late in antiquity, but you have to get through the original historical reports, because what's being presented in the last 250, 300 years is not an accurate reflection of what happened in antiquity. These books are being rewritten. And to answer your second question, like I mentioned, the first time I was on this show was 26 years in prison. I had access to many books that have not been in circulation for a very long time. Prisoners like to hold on to books. Prisons in Texas, some of them are 170, 180 years old, and they're still open, and I had access to all their libraries. And I also had access to Book Tree Press in San Diego, which published my first 5 books. Paul Tice prints nothing but old reprints from 400, 300, 200, and 100 years ago. So I also had access to that, and I spent a lot of my own money. I probably ordered about 400 books out of his catalog. And
what's his name again?
His name is Paul Tice. He owns Book Tree in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
And on my channel, I release videos advertising the type of books that he he's a really interesting guy. He used to be the personal videographer for Zechariah Sitchin himself, which is the reason why he and I, we have a really unique relationship, because Zechariah Sitchin is a personal friend. He's got a lot of pictures with him. They traveled all over the world together, but he publishes my material, and I'm an absolute Zechariah Sitchin critic. So he's like caught in the middle, but he's a really great guy, and I really like his catalog. Anybody can get a free catalog PDF. You can just visit my channel or Archaix on Facebook. I have the whole catalog posted. So many of these books have not been in circulation. I'm talking about astrotheology, theosophical materials before there was ever a theosophical society.
Do you have like a go-to book, like that's your standard Bible, if you will?
Go-to book. Oh man, you know what? I have found value in hundreds of ancient texts. I really don't think there's any one that I can say, hey, this is the one I like. Right. Now there are texts that are unique to me because they have common denominators, for which are not really widely known to the public, like the Colburn Bible, the Orland manuscript, Mother Shipton's prophecies, the codices and quatrains of Nostradamus. There's underlying themes in this material, and these are just a few. The Book of Jasher, these are just a few. There's more, but every single one of them mentioning in exquisite detail the Phoenix phenomenon. Even Nostradamus mentions the Phoenix, but the Phoenix is one of the most widely suppressed data sets from history, and I don't know how it became so pervasive, how they did it, because I have found all this information in old books, collated the data, and presented it in my own published books. It's all there for anybody to have found. I don't understand how in the hell they did it so perfectly that it took going through 1,500 different books, all published before World War II, to put this material together. Their censorship has been going on for a very long time.
Jason, for those that are new as well, what's the Phoenix? Like, what's the whole concept of the Phoenix? Can you explain that a little bit?
Okay. It went by several different names in ancient times. One of them was Typhon, which preserves the root word Phoenix. In Egypt, it was also called Na. And you have to understand, like Athene and Neith, these are the exact same goddess. One is Egyptian, one is Greek, but everything in Egyptian is inverted from the Greek. One reads right to left, one reads left to right. And you find this with all these Egyptian names. They were recognized in the old Western cultures of Greece and Achaia, Argos, Mycenae, Ilium, Troy. They recognized all the Egyptian gods. You just read them backwards, because that's how the languages were written back then, and then the phonetics followed. So the Phoenix, being Typhon, the Fenris wolf, China called it the Thing, the Nordics called it the Fenris. In Greek it was Typhonius, Typhon, Phoenix, Nah. It has many different names, but it's all the exact same thing. In the old Jewish rabbinical records, they called it the angel of death, and they said it visits our world. This is in the Jewish Haggadah. and it says it visits our world every 138 years. This was a major clue to me because I had already amassed a lot of data sets showing all these different cataclysms and what had happened, because the common denominator with the Phoenix is not like other earthquakes or other natural disasters. Phoenix always brings these red dust, red mud, red rains, these huge mud floods falling out of a blue sky. Phoenix is always darkening the sun, turning the moon red as blood. Rocks fall from the sky, all during an earthquake, and it's a 3 to 4 hour darkness, which is longer than any eclipse could possibly be. So, additionally, when Phoenix is recorded in antiquity, it's always in huge hemispheric or regional areas. It's not like an eclipse. Most people don't understand how small a region eclipse actually covers. Eclipse is just a narrow band of shadow that crosses the world when it's happening in a very limited scope of visibility to see a real eclipse. The whole region can't see the eclipse. Only the people in the pattern of the eclipse can see it. Phoenix is not like that. Phoenix darkens the entire surface of the world at the same time. This is why ancient American cultures have dated and provided the precise timing and dates as Asian and Greek cultures for the exact same Phoenix darkening. A regular eclipse by the moon could never darken 3 different continents at the same time. It's impossible. So the Phoenix is something that appears in our sky. I don't believe it's an actual intruder planet. That's what the simulacrum wants us to believe. That's what this beautiful simulation we live in wants us to believe. This illusion of stars and this canopy that's over us that has us believing that there is freedom up there when it's not. We're in a contained area. Yeah. But the Phoenix is a worldwide phenomenon, but it cannot activate at any time. It can only activate every 138 years.
Interesting. So I know I was just studying this too. So I'm big into Greek mythology, and Typhonus was released by Gaia because it was trying to, and it defeated Zeus in the story. Are you familiar with that one? And then Zeus ended up kind of regaging and defeating Typhon after that.
Yeah, Zeus is an Achaean memory of an older king who is called in the Sumerian records Amar-Udak. Amar-Udak is just a Sumerian. That was what his original name was in the Sumerian records, but less than 100 years later in the Akkadian, Amar-Udak was Merodach. Less than 50 years later in Babylon, Merodach was Marduk. And about 1,000 years later, when the Jews were copying all these records in Babylon, Marduk became Nimrod. It is all the exact same person throughout history, and it was during the reign of Nimrod's life, 1915 BC, is when that major Phoenix episode you're talking about occurred. It's also the subject matter of the 7 Babylonian tablets of creation called Anima Elish. It's also a Phoenix event. It perfectly describes the Phoenix phenomenon.
Would that lineup of the 7 also for you correlate to the archons in the Gnostic text?
When we're discussing materials belonging to the Gnosis, we have to consider their origin. Yeah. Many people know the Gnostics being the primitive early Christians, but it's actually much deeper than that. There would be no Gnosis, there would be no students of the Gnosis had not Alexander of Macedon amassed over 150,000 records from the Near East that when he plundered those libraries, when he took over and became king of Babylon and started the Alexandrian library. And then Aristarchus and Eratosthenes, these Greek scholars had all these records translated from the ancient Near East, and they started the Pergamum library and the Alexandrian library. The Gnosis was born out of this 300 years before BC, before Christ, before Common Era, whatever your paradigm is. At that time, at the death of Alexander of Macedon, it was the greatest amalgamation of ancient knowledge the world has ever seen, all in one building. And this is where the Gnosis was born. These scholars who are very well versed in the Orphic prophecies and the Sibylline prophecies, they had continued that research, finding many parallels, and basically the Gnosis was born from the studies that were conducted in that library. And these archons are a continuation of the 7 Anuna kings that were all very popular in those tablet records.
So that's how far back does this go for you on your research?
The 26th century BC is when the 7 kings of the Anuna were ruling, and the Sumerian king list is actually a triumphal. documented. It's been widely misinterpreted in two ways. One of them, calendrically. One of them, there is no way in the world that a single king can rule and live 48,000 years. The entire thing is misinterpreted, which Alexander Del Mar over 100 years ago noticed that the shar, which Zechariah Sitchin claims means a year and stretches out Anunnaki history to 241,200 shars, meaning that's how long the 7 kings of the Anunnaki reigned over the earth. That's not right. The shar simply means unit of measurement. It doesn't mean, we have proof of this in many Near Eastern texts. We have actual manifests from ancient ships where all the cargo on those ships in the 19th and 18th century BC were measured in shars. This proves that the shar was a unit of measurement, not a unit of time. It could be applied to anything. So when we take the 241,200 shars of the Sumerian king list and reduce it to the Sumerian year, which was also the Brahmanic, the Vedic, the Mayan, the Quiche, and the Olmec year, which was 360 days, we just had 670 years. This same 670 years of the reign of the 7 kings is the same 670 years that Nostradamus mentions. He specifically mentions 670-year period and mentions at the end of that period that the Phoenix will rule. And this is what we have. 2239 BC, Phoenix destroyed everything. We know this in the historical record as the Great Flood. However, in the matriarchal records, we have it as the collapse of the vapor canopy. This is, in all the Nordic records, the same event that they declare when the sky fell. This is all the exact same thing. This is, in the ancient American traditions, the same event as the birth of the water sun, because the 4 sun ages began only after the vapor canopy was gone. This is why all the stellar calendars were abandoned and no longer had application. The year had been modified. Now we have the sun. Now all these giant megaliths are put all over the world as sun calendars, like Stonehenge. You're familiar with Stonehenge and Durrington Walls and Karnak. So the Phoenix keeps changing our base, not just ecology, but our entire biosphere is altered by the Phoenix many times in history, like it's going to be very soon from now, about 18 years. And it will return, it will bring another vapor canopy. And that vapor canopy is going to bring phenomenal changes to the human body. And when it does, those changes in the human body are well documented in the chapters of the Revelation prophecies. Because the Revelation prophecies basically explain what humans are going to be going through, which doesn't really make sense. Because right now, humans are very fragile. How can they live through all these events? It's the same. This is why the books of 2nd Esdras, 1st and 2nd Esdras were removed from the canon. 1st and 2nd Esdras have very detailed prophetic information that should have been put in the Sibylline oracles. That's where the revelation came from. The writings of Cerinthus. And Cerinthus was a student of the Gnosis, and he copied the Sibylline oracles. And people think the Book of Revelation is a Christian document. It is not. It is far older, and fragments of it have been found everywhere. It is about the return of the 7 kings. It's about the return of the vapor canopy. It's about the return of the Phoenix, which initiates all of this.
How does the Phoenix tie into the sun for you? Like the sun that comes out, our sun?
Well, and I really don't like talking about the sun and the moon. I'm going to tell you why. Because I have to get through people's paradigmic baggage. I have to get through these filters that people have accepted. Or I cannot ever entertain the fact again that the sun is 93 million miles away. I'm just never going to be able to do it.
Right. No, I totally concur with you on that. But do you think the Phoenix could be tied to the sun? Is what I guess I'm asking for you.
Well, what I believe is that our entire sky is simulated. And when I'm talking about these Phoenix appearances, yes, to the casual observer standing on the surface looking up at the sky, an intelligent observer is going to see what his paradigm allows him to see. I'll give you an example. If I was a Viking watching the Phoenix, it's going to look like a giant wolf eating the moon. If I was a Sumerian scholar who was an adept at mathematics and I knew astronomy pretty good, I'm going to see what looks like to be a giant sky dragon with mathematical precision coming darkening the sun and devouring the moon. In modern times, our paradigm allows us to think of it differently. This is the same phenomenon that's occurring when 400 years ago we thought fairies and elves danced around crop circles. Now, we attribute that to extraterrestrial. Same phenomenon, different dressing. The same thing applies to Phoenix. With Phoenix, you're going to have people looking up, swearing up and down. That's that's an intruder planet. That's a whole other world coming between us and transiting between the sun. The sky is going to perpetuate the idea that is most common in the human collective. If the human collective is believing it's an intruder planet that's on the way because the media has told them that, that's what they're going to see in the sky. And the sky is going to perpetuate the illusion that the sun is 93 million miles away and that this object is in between us, causing the sun to go dark and all this stuff. I don't believe any of that. That is just the dressing that is given to us. I believe we live in a sentient biogram that is hyper. It is far more advanced than we're able to attain right now. And it is going to appear to us as anything that we in the collective accept. And that the Phoenix isn't 76 years out. It's not 18 years out. It's in the sky. I have many videos that are explaining the astronomical anomalies that the scientific community doesn't want to talk about, such as parallax, the lack of parallax, the actual documented photo templates that astronomers have studied for the past 100 years showing that no matter what Earth's position is, not one single instance of parallax has ever been documented, and that's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. The sky is going to generate the phenomena that we've been led to believe is occurring. Now, what that phenomenon is totally depends on the human collective psyche at the time. What we don't control is the fact that we are living within a mathematical construct that is operative every 138 years. Something in the sky with intelligence determines, is it time to do a reset? Have they grown sufficiently enlightened? Are they going to threaten? You understand, the Tower of Babel was a threat. That entire story never happened. That is an absolute veiled threat to humanity that if you build too high, or if you get too small,
cut you off.
It's going to break you down.
That's it. Yeah, I was just thinking about that today. That's awesome. So, I mean, where do you stand with, so obviously the Phoenix, for those of you that are joining, we're talking with Jason from Archaix over at YouTube. Go subscribe to his channel. We're talking about him completely changing his life and moving into a different realm of thinking after a motorcycle accident. He had this epiphany about this simulation, which I'm totally enamored by because I believe we live in a simulation. And we're talking about the Phoenix and how it's tied to all these, it seems like resets. I wanted to ask you, Jason, because last time you were on the Syncretism podcast, you were talking about the measurement of the pyramids, and I was like, I got to ask him if I ever talked to him on this. And I know you already mentioned that 138, and I know you're going to say it's measured into the foundation measurements of the pyramid. Is that correct? The 138?
Well, it's a lot deeper than that. It's so deep in fact that I had to release like 5 or 6 videos just to show. And I have openly challenged anybody in the scientific community to critique my thesis. The measurements were done by micrometer to a thousandth of an inch. They're scientifically accepted today. The historical dates derived from hundreds of data points that were all sourced and dated by other people, not me. And all I did was put them together to show that every one of these measurements in the Great Pyramid, it's an architectural holographic template of the past and future. And it's not, all I did was put together what so many people before me had already theorized, but they were unable to show because they did not have an accurate chronology. It took an accurate chronology for all this to fit together. Never did it. This is why I'm so adamant about publishing my source material. This is why I was published to begin with. Paul Tice disagreed with some of my thesis. It went against his own personal belief system and his friend Zechariah Sitchin. However, my books are packed with bibliographic references that cannot be denied. If you think something's not true, look it up for yourself. So, the Great Pyramid is a huge anomaly. It's a huge anomaly. How the hell a 203 courses of blocks, 2.5 ton to 5 ton blocks were stacked. You understand? I'm a stonemason. My company is Paradise Rock Garden, and I have a very extensive website of the hundreds of jobs I've done since I've been out of prison. Well, I build out of flagstone. I can build you anything out of stone. This is what I do. And I know for a fact the tolerances and the hyperbolic curves, the weight of this monument, this structure that's 481 foot tall, and yet the tunnels that are inside of it were put together as it was being built. That's not easy. It's so much easier to go ahead and build a solid structure and then go in there and tunnel it. Because the precision we're seeing is like a laser light going through hundreds of feet of corridors and passages. It's just not, it's too anomalous. It doesn't make sense. So I have theories that I've published in my videos as well where I show architectural diagrams. I believe it has an engineering function. I believe that there's a reason why there's a subterranean like pump station that goes straight down into an aquifer underneath the pyramid. There's a reason for that. That cooling was necessary. And the niches, the hundreds of niches that have been found in the Grand Gallery, they are more precise than anything we have machined today. And they're totally ignored by the scientific community.
Do you think it's possible that people like giants built those pyramids? Made it pretty much is a theory, right?
Giants built pyramids. They never went in.
Right, of course. It's like it's building an ant farm. You can't go in the ant farm. You're not an ant. Yeah, I get it.
I believe the pyramids were built by machines. I believe that less than 600 men could have easily built those pyramids if they had they have used conveyances and machines. And I believe that the ancient accounts of watching giant blocks float through the air is cargo cult phenomenon. It's not actual levitation. What it is people from a distance who are not a part of the construction crew, who are more primitive, watching from a distance as giant stones on cables are being floated through the air by different tractors and different mechanisms like that. My interpretations on how the pyramid was built is not metaphysical at all. I believe that all can be done through engineering. It just can't be done through the BS that the Egyptologists are putting out today about copper chisels and iron hammers. That's bullshit.
That's funny, man.
It's not actual levitation. People from the... Got me on a loop?
No, you cut out for a second. So the 130, because the 138 to me is a special number. It's tied to the number 137. It's like the partner of that number. And 137 is the fine structure constant in physics, and the speed of light is tied to that. So I think like the Great Pyramid of Giza, the latitude, longitude you were mentioning on the last podcast is 29 degrees north and 31 degrees east. And when you add those two up as a numerologist, it gives us the number 60/61 if you get the exchange over it past the decimal point. What's your take on the actual location of the pyramids? That's like ground zero, you had said on the last time you were here, right?
Well, okay. When the Great Pyramid was built, indeed, well, I'm on board with it. It used to be the 0 degree longitude, 0 degree latitude. It was the prime meridian. It was the dead center. As a matter of fact, the Great Pyramid was built before we had literacy. There was no reading and writing that we know of today when the pyramid was built. It doesn't mean the pyramid is very, very ancient, because it's not. It's but every reference to the Great Pyramid is from basically Neolithic frames of reference. It was called the Axis Mundi. It was called the Tree of Life. It was called the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. It was called the Pillar, like the Pillars of Hercules, like the ones of Gibraltar. It was something that held up the sky. I have my very first published book. I spent about 9 chapters explaining all the iconography and imagery that relates to the Great Pyramid that have been found in the Book of the Dead, the oldest rabbinical and Hebrew text, and the idea associated with the Great Pyramid from the very beginning is that it was an altar and it was a pillar. It served both functions. A pillar supports something that is very important. But an altar is built in recognition of something bad had happened, and there must be something good as a result. An altar it's not worship. It's not worship. Altars were built in ancient times as apologies, like I'm sorry. It had a totally different concept back in ancient times. When altars, like brazen altars, were set up and people gave sacrifices to them, it was in recognition of, hey man, I haven't been living the way I have. I'm sorry, God. Please accept this. I don't have much, but I don't have any money, but here's half my bread. And they would throw it in the brazen altar in front of the church, and that person would walk away feeling that, hey man, I gave my apology to God. Well, the Great Pyramid, being so strongly attached to the idea of an altar, begs the question, who is sorry and who are they addressing? Because men didn't build that. Not the men that we have on this world today.
Yeah.
Somebody else put this together, and somebody else codified the measurements to allow us in these last days to interpret all this, to know definitively what to expect on this last day's timeline. Because it's all there.
Yeah, Jason, on the 3 pyramids, just not the great, not Khufu, but the 3 that are the main constructs of these 7 wonders of the world. What is the connection from everything that you found that tie into the belt of Orion? Can you elaborate on that? Have you found any research on Orion's connection to the pyramids?
Yeah, I've read Graham Hancock and all those books. I'm in total disagreement with it. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, the Great Pyramid is the only pyramid in the world that has an ascending passage. It was very cleverly concealed by a ceiling block that looked like any other ceiling block. It didn't become dislodged until April of the year 820 when the Muslim Caliph Al-Mamun of Baghdad had an expedition crew and they were tunneling into the pyramid looking for treasures. Now, there are no records from antiquity of a king's chamber, a queen's chamber, a grand gallery, ascended passages, an antechamber. Nothing could be found. Even the detailed records of Ammianus Marcellinus on the Great Pyramid, 300 years Common Era after Christ, nothing is mentioned of these. All the pyramids in the Americas, all the pyramids in China, all the pyramidal structures throughout the entire world share one common denominator, and that is an entrance that is about 1/3 up the surface of the structure, and then it goes down at 20 to 26 degrees underneath the structure to a subterranean chamber. This is pyramid architecture universal. This is pyramid architecture all over the world. But there's one pyramid in the entire world which happens to be the largest true pyramid. Now, yes, there is a pyramidal mound in Mexico that has more mass. But a mound that is full of dirt and rubble is not a true pyramid. A true pyramid is cut and dressed blocks on a foundation that go all the way up. Not cut and dressed blocks that are on a hill to make it look like. I'm not talking about is that Teotihuacan?
You're talking about Teotihuacan, been there.
Teotihuacan, okay, the pyramid, yeah, built by the Toltecs, not the Aztec.
Yep.
Yeah, the Aztec venerated the area. It was actual Toltecs that built it.
That's right.
But anyway, that's another interesting topic, like the discoveries of Niven in Mexico. Scientific community don't even want to talk about that. But one of the greatest ancient civilizations ever found on this planet is, well, this world, is in Mexico. In the 1910s, 1911, 1912, by William Niven, published all the way to the 40s. It was in Mexico, and it's phenomenal because it shows humans side by side with megafauna. Giant woolly mammoths, woolly deals. We're in pyramid cities, and it's incredible. If you aren't familiar with that, all you gotta do is Google William Niven, ancient cities of Mexico. They were found 40 feet underground. It's fascinating.
Do you think the pyramids actually form an octahedron shape? So just like what you see above the Earth is what you're going to see below.
You know what? I went on a tangent. Let me go back to your first inquiry, man, because the Orion's belt deal.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that.
I have a video explaining what I believe occurred. I believe that a very small crew of men operating very advanced machinery built the Great Pyramid, and nobody else was allowed near the site when this happened. This is what I believe.
Okay.
When they sealed it, no one knew that there was an ascended passage, a king's chamber. They also hid whatever mechanism went up and down that grand gallery, because some type of wheeled circular mechanism with spokes definitely went at high velocity up and down the grand gallery, because we can see the niches that go up. They're for cog wheels. It goes all the way up and down the grand gallery. Study period. Any of the textbooks can show you the grand gallery, and you will see those niches. They are technolithic. They're not heliolithic. Technolithic means that they are absolutely so precise that the tolerances can't be replicated today. Our marble on bank buildings does not match the tolerances of the Great Pyramid. Neither do we produce any masonry on this world today that we're fusing together 5-ton blocks with a mortar and adhesive that's only 1/50th of an inch thick, and yet the chemical compounds, some of them are unidentifiable, and they're stronger than the stone that they glue together. That's the Great Pyramid. But whoever built this monument didn't want the rest of humanity to know what was inside of it. Once it was sealed, there was no knowledge of any of these king's chamber, great sarcophagus, queen's chamber, antechamber, grand gallery. None of that, the ascended passage to get to all that, none of that was there. But they left open the descendant. Other people came and built another pyramid, probably at the same time, which is the second pyramid. But there are fundamental differences that Egyptologists don't really want people to know. you have to go to the specialist literature, such as, it looks like two great pyramids, and it looks like they're of equal height. But when you go study the second pyramid, you find that it's on a 60-foot high platform. It doesn't have near the courses of blocks that go up. It's also more inferior. It doesn't have the precision. Also, it's also been studied through subsurface interface radar and determined that it doesn't have any of the features of the Great Pyramid. It doesn't have any of the Ascendant, the King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber. It doesn't have any of those features. It's almost as if it's a decoy. The third pyramid is the same. It is inferior. It does not match up to the precision of the Great Pyramid as well. So this alignment of the stars Orion may be a geophysical fact. I don't know, nor do I really care, because I think it's all decoy. I think these decoys were set in place for a very reason. They didn't want anybody until the very last days when it's time to reactivate that mechanism to really understand it or even breach it and get inside of it to learn more about it. And so it doesn't even matter because until John Taylor first theorized and published a book in the 1860s about the Great Pyramid being a calendar of the past and future, although he couldn't prove it, he just had his intuition was firing off. And this was followed by many other researchers at the time, all the way up to Ruth Ferd and David Davidson and some really phenomenal people. It doesn't matter because it wasn't until now that anybody would have been able to show it and demonstrate it. So some of my videos have hundreds of charts. Well, and those charts are provided on Gumroad. I don't hide any of my research. I don't try to make any of it enigmatic. Anybody can see exactly what I have found, man. Because I don't try to conceal it. It's open to the public.
Did you know, Jason, that the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, Charles Taze Russell, he actually has in one of his volumes, he has that timeline that you're talking about in the pyramid, that Flinders Petrie and Davidson and all those guys, Peter Le Mesurier. Have you read Peter Le Mesurier?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that name.
Yeah,
I might have read it, but I'm not familiar with it.
He's from the 1980s and 1990s. He wrote a book about the Great Pyramid. Incredible revelations in that book. But Charles Taze Russell was around when Flinders Petrie and all of those guys were out there bombing, exploding bricks to get into the pyramid. And he has the exact same timeline. He shows a timeline of the great ascending passageway and all the chambers, and showing. And he was actually showing that 1914 was the big date that culminated.
It was a big number for the JW.
And it was. 1914 was. I mean, this World War I. All the events that led up to 1917 began in 1914. So in a way, he was right, but it's the Great Pyramid. It's awesome. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, but you know, Egyptology promotes the idea that Cheops, the Great Cheops, which was the Egyptian, the Phoenician Chephren, is the one that built the pyramid. Now, they heavily promote this from a single second-hand reference from 440 BC by Herodotus in his histories. A single reference mentioning that it might have been Cheops who built it. So this guy, Howard Weiss, in 1837, goes into the Great Pyramid and he's losing funding. And this right here is absolute fact. But you won't read it in books about Egypt. But you can read, but it's been recorded in the UK. Many books in the UK talk about it. But in 1837, Howard Weiss's expedition was losing money. He couldn't find anything new that anybody else had ever found about the Great Pyramid. So suddenly he comes out all excited that he found Egyptian hieroglyphs in the relieving chambers above the Great Pyramid, and that one of them was the cartouche of Cheops. Instantly, he gets grants. So everybody wants to give me funding and all that. But when they do the press release on this in 1837, a master mason that was a part of his crew named Humphreys Brewer tried to intervene, and he called Weiss a liar. And he said, I was there when he painted those. He said, this pyramid was not built by that Egyptian pharaoh. These are forgeries. Man, the UK government removed him. They took his mason status, They removed Humphrey Brewer from the expedition, cut off his funding, and sent him back home.
Yep.
Yep.
Hey, Jason, what are the major numbers that stand out for you? Because I'm a numbers person, and like the latitude longitude for the Great Pyramid is 60 when you add up 60 and 61, which 60 is neodymium, which they use to make magnets. It's one of the most magnetic, and it's tied to the 144. It's heavily tied to just biblical stuff, the neodymium. But you mentioned the 60 with the pyramid, the height when it was built on a slab or something like that.
Yeah, that's the second pyramid.
Second pyramid. The Khafre, yeah.
Yeah, it's the second pyramid is made to look like it's the same height on the distance, but actually it contains almost 30% less masonry, and it's fully constructed.
Right, okay. I'm just curious on that. So
it actually looks higher from certain perspectives, and they think it is. A lot of people.
Well, Santos, the reason why I subscribe to the idea that it's all misdirection to keep people away from focusing on the Great Pyramid, which had all the secrets contained in it, is the reason that the entire three pyramid deal was situated and centered behind the older Sphinx, which is much older than the rest of that site. The Sphinx was a matriarchal symbol. It was originally y'all are familiar with Anubis, the ancient Egyptian dog?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the original Sphinx was a matriarchal symbol. It was carved into the effigy of the giant dog. Originally it was not a dog. It was something feminine. Later it was changed again and put a human face on it, but it didn't originally come with a human face. This is why the head is so disproportionate from the body. Once the largest statue of the ancient world, it's gone through several transitions by whatever patriarchal or matriarchal culture was ruling at the time. But the Great Pyramid site was built directly behind it, and the decoy pyramid, the middle pyramid, which there's nothing special about it, was put directly behind it to give it special significance, which takes away from all the attention from the Great Pyramid, which has all the secrets. So I believe it was designed that way to afford attention, to get people to focus on the center pyramid, because that's what people focus on throughout antiquity.
Yeah, that's interesting. So now we've kind of established the Phoenix aspect and linking to the Great Reset. We've gone to the pyramids. So let's move into, if you don't mind, Jason, talking about this simulation theory that you kind of originally started with and how that ties into the Phoenix reset that you talked about earlier, and the pyramids.
Well, that's good. That's good that you want to move in that direction, because it also allows me to answer your question about significant numbers, because that's what the simulation is. This simulated medium that we're in is only through the central nervous system that we're jacked into do we interpret all this as a physical reality, physical sensation. And the central nervous system allows us to compute this data in a linear fashion. But the truth of the matter is everything going on around us is in proportions of 1.618, 3.14, and the ultimate number of curvature itself, which makes all of this possible, is 5.08. And 5.08 is pi times 5, and you will find it everywhere in nature, but it's not even mentioned in science. They don't even recognize it, but where you're going to find this curvature equation, 5.08, which is pi times 5. You're going to find it everywhere in the unfolding of historical events. All you have to do is take any two events in the past that are similar in nature, that are correlates, and all you have to do is find out how many days transpire between those events. Multiply or divide it by 1.618 or 3.14 or 5.08. And you're going to find the exact date in the future where a similar event will occur again that is absolutely connected in space-time to the first two events you measure. This is a part of the system that I've developed in the software, and I haven't been wrong yet. I do predictive analytics videos for people all the time, and you'd be shocked about it. I'm not even shocked anymore about it, but because what led to this discovery was history. Just studying history with a calculator, sitting in a prison cell, and refusing to believe that dates were accurate unless I could verify them, unless I could show that they were a part of this great, grand mathematical construct that we call history. And what I found in the years of world history is absolutely the truth when it comes to the days of a man's life. The operative mathematics and palindromic nature of reality pertains to both. It doesn't matter. The mathematics in the macro apply to the micro as well. The micro being that of the days of the events of a man's life. So I was doing predictions on events in people's lives as I was on the events of world history. And this is how I put my whole chronicon together, which is free to the public on my website, the PDF file, which is a mess. It's a lot of files to download. Or you can get a real clean copy of it on Gumroad for like $7 or $8. But I don't really try to sell or market that because it is the crowning achievement of all my research. Chronicon is 7,000 years of world recorded human history, citing all the source materials and all the arithmetic that basically show how our reality is a mathematical construct. And I did this before I even knew anything about simulation theory. I did this because it was very interesting to me. It took a motorcycle accident for me to draw the chords, for me to realize, holy shit, this is what my research is about. This is what it all meant. This is why it never made sense to me before. It was too mathematically perfect. Now I understand.
I understand.
These numbers that you're talking about, the golden proportion numbers fool people all the time. That's what they're designed to do. The simulacrum that we're in is based on deceit. It's also based on negative default programming. This is why it's very hard to maintain a positive attitude because you're saturated with negativity every day. And we become broadcasters and transmitters of the very negativity we're absorbing around us. It's in the arithmetic all around us. But this positivity, this golden proportion, 72, 144, 108, all these golden proportion numbers, people use these in all different types of systems, but they're going to lead you astray every time. You're going to get to a point using golden proportion ratios and numbers, and you're going to get stuck because it's going to lie to you. And it's going to have you believing something is going to occur or happen, or that you have found something of substance, and it's going to collapse. And then this collapse, this continuity is not measurable. When it pops back up, you see it, and you start your calculations in golden proportion again, and you get deceived again. But what is not deceptive is the phi ratio of 1.618 and 3.14. Pi and phi, when you measure the years, months, or days in between significant events, and then you do your projections like that. If you were just to count days and multiples of the golden proportion Fibonacci series, you're going to be led down all kinds of false trails.
Say that again?
If you were to like take sequence prediction, if you were to count days, I'll give you an example. If you were to think that, okay, this event occurred and it was 108 days after this event, and these two events are very similar in nature. So you would assume that 108 day multiples, okay, 108, 216, 324, 432, and just keep 540, and you keep going up. Somewhere on that timeline, a significant event's going to occur. This is what many people have done in their mathematical systems, and in sequence prediction, it doesn't work. It's going to lead you down false trails. But what does work is taking those two events and counting the number of days between them and then multiplying it by 5. 1.618. Then looking on a calendar or using a calendar app to determine how far in the future that number is. That number might be, if it's 108 days, and you multiply it by 1.618, it might end up being 217 days. I don't know. I can't do that calculation in my head like that, but you can do it with a calculator. You look 217 days in the future, and you will find on that exact date a very similar event occurred, which was a holographic reflection of basically a fulfillment of the two events. It's a merge of those events. And this is what I've documented thousands of data sets showing how our entire world history can be measured this way.
And these numbers and everything, the measurements you're talking about, which for those of you that are fans of the esoteric, the skull and bones has the 322. If you subtract that by, if you divide it by 2, you get 1.61. But anyway, you were talked about the simulation and how these numbers are the construct of that. Can you kind of get into that? Talk about that.
It's hard to discuss simulation theory when we don't, because we're talking about something that's so antithetical to what we
how do we dummy it down to like, you could go into an elevator and tell anybody exactly what the concept is, and they'd be like, okay, that's kind of a cool theory.
Okay, well check this out. In the 1867-1868, it was widely recognized throughout the United Kingdom by the scientific community. They released some reports in the newspaper carrying them. And they said, we don't know what happened to all the insects. Because every species of fly, of beetle, of spider, of roach, all the insects in the United Kingdom were gone. And they didn't know why. You know, they don't have sex, they don't have type. There's no reason for every single insect to disappear.
They can get rid of mosquitoes now.
Fools that microfish and go to look at those original records, you will see the newspapers were right with all kinds of theories as to why there were no insects. Because now the rodents were dying. Now the predators were dying. And this was a big deal in 1867, 1868, 1869. It became such a big deal that it was on everybody's mind. People were taking tea, taking coffee. They're on the corner talking about it. Now it enters into the collective unconscious. It becomes aware. I mean, everybody's talking about it. They want to know when insects are coming. Well, this reality that we live in recognized a problem and edited in a solution almost instantly. But it seems it has a problem responding to rapid human consciousness. When people suddenly become aware of something, it has a problem. But what happened was, and this is recorded, Charles Fort spent a lot of time documenting this deal. But ship captains were at sea when rivers of locusts, spiders, cockroaches, earthworms, every insect you can imagine, the larvae of butterflies, larvae that have not even hatched yet, and butterflies, frozen solid, fell into the sea, fell on ships. They had to sweep them off their decks, just like they did in 1902, sweeping off their decks, all the red phoenix fall out, and it fall on. It's the same thing. But in the 1860s, it was insects. Chimney sweeps all over London had to be reassigned to just sweeping bugs, because it was raining bugs every single day. This was a problem. Our holography recognized, okay, there's a problem, we need to create a solution. And out of these invisible bolts in the sky, it wasn't the first time this happened, but out of these invisible, unseen bolts in the sky, all of a sudden, it just started raining all the insects that humans were missing. But it was overkill. It only corrected that after about a week. But by that time, now it caused a plague. Now there's a stench of insects that caused all kinds of problems. But this was so well documented, people just looking at rivers of insects falling out of the blue sky, different species, but the species were in their own groups. They weren't mixed together. If there was a river over London of cockroaches, over Yorkshire, there was a river of beetles. It was very different. So I have documented many historical instances where it seems to be that our holography has gone through an editing period where it was trying to. Humans were aware of a problem, and the submittal had to edit in a correction really fast. This has happened more times than you know. Mandela effect and coincidence and synchronicity, all these phenomena that we try to attribute to other things are actually very well explained in simulation theory. Yeah. These anomalies that we experience of missing time, of time dilations, UFO activity, things that I mean, people theorize UFOs are actual vehicles. Some people that are living organisms. And so, to me, they act like rangefinders. To me, it's like somebody outside of the simulacrum trying to locate something inside the simulacrum to pull it out, such as Malaysian Airlines 337 or Flight 377, which there is more scientific evidence showing that Malaysian Airlines 2 years ago went straight up into the sky and vanished and it ever came down. And we have many instances of aircraft doing that. We have two major regions, both of them triangular, and the Bermuda Triangle, where this phenomenon has become so normalized, people don't even pay attention to it anymore. But if you pay attention to local reports, you will find out that phenomenon has never stopped. There are still ships coming up missing in the Bermuda Triangle, even as late as 2 months ago. This has never stopped.
So basically what let me just kind of, for those of you that are just joining, we're talking with Jason from the Archaic YouTube channel. So, Archaix, I'm sorry, did I say that right? Archaix?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Archaic. Okay, Archaic or Archaix?
Well, Archaix with an X because
with the S. Archaix. Okay, cool. I'm glad. Sorry if I got it wrong. So we're talking about the simulation theory, and that's what Jason's all about. And so, Jason, the simulation theory is basically we're living in, I mean, there's that book, The Holographic Universe, What, have you read that book? I'm sure you have.
I have read that book. It's fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. So the simulation theory is that we're living in a simulation. For those of you that are numerology fans, the word sim is 314. Jay, I don't know if you're into numerology, Jason, but the word sim into simulation is 314, which is pi. And I'm a huge fan of pi and phi, so I really value what you've been talking about. And these numbers that we can measure this reality through cause the simulation that we all say this is life, right? Is that what you're kind of saying? For those of you that are just joining?
Yes, it's so hard to talk about.
Yeah, I know.
We're living in one of the most advanced. We're living inside the most advanced simulated universe ever created.
Yeah, agreed. We're going to take some phone calls, Jason. People really want to chop it up with you, and we're going to bring a few people in. Is that all right with you? You ready?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not trying to monopolize time. I haven't heard much to say, folks, in this.
Yeah, I kind of took it. No, I don't know. He's off in Neverland looking at the comments, I think. trying to moderate a little bit, but it's all good. I hope you don't mind me asking all these questions.
No, go ahead. But I will direct your attention to one thing. I do have, if you're really interested in the numbers.
Oh, dude, I want all the numbers, dude.
Yeah. I have a video called Your Bionumeric Life, where I explain how these numbers apply to the individual days of your life and how you can apply them.
Nice. I'm totally for that, man. I really value everything that you've mentioned so far, because it's kind of in line with what I believe anyway, so this is really kind of amazing. But let's bring the first caller in. Kyle, welcome to the Syncretism Society podcast with Jason.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Hey, I'm Kyle. I called in a couple podcasts ago. Just want to thank you guys for everything you've done. Thank you for your wisdom, Santos, and everyone. My question was about the return of the Phoenix. You said that was going to be around 2040. Are you familiar, like, what's there to expect? Is there going to be major earth changes, or will be catastrophic for people in certain areas?
Okay, every individual person in this simulation creates their own informed field. And this is important to understand when it comes to cataclysm resets and cataclysm protocols. Phoenix is a cataclysm protocol. It's one of three that I've identified. Asia from China, India, I've mapped each geographical area that's affected each time it appears. It's Asia's turn to get it. And in the prophetic narrative in the book of Revelation, in the sixth seal judgment, we have the Phoenix phenomenon. It's perfectly laid out. Everything the Phoenix does is in Revelation chapter 6. It's the breaking of the sixth seal. Now, when this is broken and all this occurs, it says 1/4 of the world's population will die. I believe that. But it's not going to be Westerners, because there's a worse cataclysm coming after that will affect the Western world. This one affects the Eastern world. But when I'm saying informed fields, you have to understand, you have great latitude in deciding where you're going to be, who you're going to be, and how reality itself will respond to you. I don't fear cataclysms because I understand that this simulated holography is so precise, it is so reactive to the human psyche that if I believe that I'm going to be an island of security for me and mine, then that's what's going to happen. And while the collective around me may be going through chaos and hell, I know that the simulacrum is so advanced that it can knit for me some type of protection during all this, while everybody else who doesn't think they're protected, they're not protected. He says, we create our own informed field. Now, there's a force dynamic in the human personality that's so powerful, it's operative every day. It is the exact reason why you're going through whatever you're going through on a daily basis.
Did that answer your question, Kyle?
Yes, thank you. But is this type of return of Phoenix or cataclysm, is this going to be some type of artificial or natural occurrence? Or
okay, first of all, May 15th, 2040 is on a 5,900-year chronology. It's very well documented. It's so well documented that I still don't have any takers to critique it. It's every 138 years and in the month of May. This is a simulated protocol. It can't be actual. It can't be real. It can't be an intruder planet, because if we live in a Newtonian universe, there's no way that a bolide, a comet, or a dead world could ever return in the same month every 138 years, especially when the actual number of days in the year, which is our velocity around this artificial sun, changed multiple times in that 5,900 years. It's mathematically impossible. So we're not living in a real solar system. We're living in a simulated solar system that's designed to make you believe it's all real. The Phoenix that you're thinking is coming in 18 years is already here. It's in the sky, it's hidden. It just hasn't activated. But the cataclysm that's coming in May 2040 is going to be horrific for about half of the world. It's going to be basically a systemic infrastructure collapse. It's going to return people back to a more governable society. Those freedoms that we're enjoying now, even in this restricted society, just this morning I got kicked off Facebook. I no longer have Facebook. I can't access Facebook anymore. I've been posting my arcades through rapid fire lately. They got rid of me, and that's fine. I'm cool with that. I'm about to reload everything on other platforms. I'm tired of Facebook anyway. But this morning there's a lot of chaos on my group. Arcades behind the censorship, and there's just no way I can get on. I got a tablet. I got a touchscreen computer, I got a touchscreen tablet, and I got a phone, and I'm trying to access it and lock me. Facebook told me to lock me out of it. Even this censorship we're going through now, though, we still have a lot of freedom. But come 2040, we're going to have some problems. We're going to have a lot of problems behind this phenomenon, because this infrastructure allows us to communicate in the collective. When that infrastructure is removed and telecommunications are no longer an option, we're going to be stuck in our little micro communities. That's how we're going to live after 2040. This worldwide society will be over with after that.
That's interesting. That's the 2040 is the metal monkey in the Chinese zodiac, and the monkey is Sagittarius, which has the all-seeing eye on it through Jupiter. But anyway, thanks for calling, Kyle. I hope you got your question answered. Well, let's take somebody else. Who we got? Cheryl? What calendar is Jason using for his calculations? Jason, someone's asking about what calendar you're going off of.
Okay. Going back to the Alexandrian Library, we have hundreds of historical references by many scholars today, going back the last 500 years into the Renaissance period, of a calendar that was very well known in antiquity that is not used today by anyone except Mason.
What's the name of it?
It's called the Anno Mundi calendar.
Anno Mundi calendar, yeah.
In the world. And Masons have been using it for at least since 400 years ago, when the Inigo Jones document was released to the public by accident. Then the Wood manuscript was released to the public. But before that time, the Masons were never really revealing what kind of chronological data they had when they had been amassing it. But those two documents show all these events in world history involving the Great Pyramid. Those documents mention the Great Pyramid, and they were talking about everything in the Anno Mundi calendar. Anaximander, all these people, man, were recording things in Anno Mundi dates. Stephen Jones in the year 1996 published a book. He's a modern guy. He published a book using the Anno Mundi chronology and showing all these events in world history. And that's one of the main sources where I found these one. He didn't know anything about this 138-year sequence. He didn't even publish anything about it. But I found it in his chronology when I was looking at these major disasters in world history. And these are all 138 years apart. So I had not yet read the Haggadah, where there was a reference to the 138 years, the angel of death visits every 138 years. I hadn't read that yet. So this ancient calendrical system that Phoenix is based off of is the Alexandrian model of history. Like I told you, the Alexandrian model was the greatest amalgamation of ancient records this world has ever seen. We have never seen another library like it. It's gone. It was destroyed like 16 different times. And everybody blames everybody else, but it was really developed from trying to edit out that. It was really just blaming anybody, writing it in the historical record. But the Anno Mundi chronology is where we get our Phoenix dates from, and they're verified from many different mathematical vantage points.
So interesting, because, the President of the United States, they call him the Phoenix. Phoenix is 36, and the numerology operating system is tied to the 36.
More than dogma by Albert Pike in 1880.
Yep.
He published the first 32 degrees, but when it comes to the 33rd degree, he only showed the cover page. He never revealed anything about it, but the cover page is a phoenix.
Right. That's why the 1988, the Economist magazine has the phoenix with the Bitcoin on its neck, or at least cryptocurrency around its neck, which is coming to a theater near you. That's interesting with the counters. I hope we answered that question. Jason, since you're a numbers guy, in pi, in the string of pi, if you type in 138, it's found at the 381st decimal digit, which is just a permutation, as they call it in mathematics, of the 138. It's like spot on.
It's a holographic reflection.
Yep, reflection. Yep, exactly. Which that number is the way hidden, but...
I know who you are.
Oh, okay.
I remember when you said that to me.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I have a channel called Decode Your Reality, so I'm just...
Okay. I know. I read your message. I looked at that. I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, holographic reflection are really interesting because I have found many historical events that are just like that. If two events are very similar in nature and they're 72 years apart, it's very uncanny how 27 years later, almost the exact same thing happens. We live in a hologram, and the arithmetic is demonstrative everywhere. It's not even surprising to me anymore.
Yeah,
at all.
That's awesome. Let's see, we get to the caller. Who? D. Lamp. D. Lamp, welcome to the Syncretism Society podcast. You have a question for Jason? You gotta unmute, D. Lamp.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Welcome to the show. What's your question for Jason?
Yeah, I wanted to see if you could elaborate more. For last time you talked about, like, 1903, several Fortune 500 companies, vanished out of nowhere. I want to see if you could elaborate more. Is that just another thing that was just emotionally put into the matrix? How does that factor in?
Okay, that's a good question because your question actually ties into something I've been wanting to clarify because it seems to me across the Netscape, across YouTube, the word reset has been used way too casually. We really have multiple types of resets. We're not just talking about cataclysm protocols where so much earthen red material falls out the sky like Godot's teepee. It buries the whole civilization. We have instances, archaeological cities that have been excavated, where not one human skeleton was found, except those that were interred when that civilization was thriving. Which tells us that whatever came, allowed, whatever started happening in the sky, dumping all this dirt and mud, still allowed for humans to run away, to get away from the area. Now, those are cataclysm resets. We're familiar with those. Many people have documented those. And Phoenix is not the only object that does this. But there's another type of reset. And I have not found anything other than the Phoenix phenomenon that's responsible. I haven't found any other dates. This reset is far more sophisticated. This reset is the editing in or editing out of materials from our reality. Almost as if, and listen, this is so far out there, some of y'all are going to balk at this.
No, give it, man. People love this stuff.
The historical record actually conveys to us over and over and over that at different periods in history, whole populations of NPCs were removed because they no longer had a function. They're not needed anymore. For the actual real souls that are here living on these life-saving physicalities. Follow me?
Yep. The Mayans and
I believe some civilizations are put there just so those who are actually here living in civilizations, when they go exploring, they find them and interact with them. We have like 1902 was a real Phoenix Day, and we have red mud, red brains, red fallout, volcanic activity. We have shit going all over. But at the same time, all of a sudden, we have the creation of so many new companies that they all started in 1901, that 1 year period between 1901 and 1902, and yet within 15 years during World War I, these were already heading toward Fortune 500 companies. There were nothing in 1899. There were nothing in 1900. They all appeared in the same year. And then World War I, all of a sudden, they're in a position of being Fortune 500 companies. And this this is almost as if the simulacrum itself is like, okay, we need humanity to be at a certain point by the year 1950, and to get to that point, we're gonna have to go ahead and give them an impetus. We're gonna have to do something because they're moving too slowly through the 1800s, which is another story. Many anomalous things happened through the 1800s, but it was all involving the simulacrum and a totally different cataclysm protocol. It had nothing to do with the Phoenix is fit. Phoenix doesn't change dates.
Jason, can you for those of you that don't know what a simulacrum is, can you describe that to the audience here?
Okay, the simulacrum is nothing but, it's an actual word in the Oxford English Dictionary. It just means a copy of something else. I use it as a description of our reality. It's just a more sophisticated way to tell you what the ancient Vedic scriptures told you when everything is Maya. It is all illusion. It's also a sophisticated way to tell you the primitive idea of the dream time, which is the old Aboriginal Australian idea. The most ancient cultures totally recognize the fact that nothing in the physical world really matters, so they didn't really worry about anything. They didn't really care about riches and all that stuff because they know they're in a life sim cycle. This is the dream time. It's the Maya. It's just, but if I was to continue though that type of terminology, it could turn a lot of people off. So I just stick with simulacrum because it's very close to simulation theory.
Okay, great.
So if we go back another 138 years beyond 1902, we come to 1764. What happened then?
In 1764, 500,000 Europeans looked up the sky on May 15th and saw a great darkness cover the sun and in the middle of the daytime. It just so happens that Royal Astronomer Hoffman in the United Kingdom was looking at his telescope studying sunspots at that exact moment in time. Had no idea he was about to see something cover the surface of the sun. He had no idea. But he entered it into the Royal astronomical records, and he was immediately dismissed by the scientific community because they said nothing that size could ever pass in between the Earth and the Sun, because he recorded that it must be a gigantic object because it covered 1/5 of the entire Sun's surface, and yet it was out by Venus. It was located near Venus. Well, if that's the case, then he's recording something the size of Jupiter passing through the inner system. And the astronomy said he's full of shit. So they left it in the records, but they also left notes saying that it can't be true. He saw something else. But half a million Europeans saw it. Again, Charles Fort actually shows the actual scientific journals that were reporting this in 1902, even though the event occurred in 1764.
1764 is the year of the metal monkey, and then 2040 is the year of the metal monkey.
Yeah, well, something just dawned on me, something really big, about May, the middle of May. That's when Mercury transits happen. They happen only in the middle of May or the middle of November, and the Venus transits happen the next month, only in June, and opposite in December. So that's just too close.
Let me tell you what astronomy is to me. What astrology is to me. Alright? Because I believe that we're looking at a hologram. Space to me, from the perspective of standing on this flat plane geometry, this computer simulated holography that we're in, space to me is a multi-tiered hologram. We're looking at the inside of a Dyson shell. And that these are fixed stars, they're not moving. But we have a problem in astronomy that's recognized by astronomers. Astrophysicists have long noted the anomalous, they're called variable stars. They are not like any other stars in the sky. I believe I mentioned this in the prior presentation. When we have Phoenix episodes, these variable stars, every single one of them are red. And variable stars are different than all the other fixed stars. They're called variable stars because they change their magnitudes. And astronomers don't know how it can go super bright and go super dim. but they all do it, and they all act up correctly. These are thousands of projectors in orography that are stimulating the Phoenix. They're simulating this vision of a sky dragon. They're simulating this, whatever we see is what is being projected, not from one projector, but from thousands of them. I believe it's far more sophisticated than we think. These are like minimal apertures between dimensions. Somebody is feeding us this stuff, and this is what we see from the inside of it.
That's pretty odd. Even 138th day of the year is on May 17th and 18th, if you count common.
right.
So, I mean, it's Taurus, which is the Bible.
Okay, when we're talking about number 138, let me explain. We have references from ancient texts of a very disastrous 414-year period. We have many references from ancient texts of about a 552-year Phoenix cycle. We have Aristarchus who says the world is totally destroyed every 24, 84 years. We have the Inca in their records who said that there was a disastrous episode 2,760 years after a fire one. We have at least 100 ancient writers that all said the pre-flood world was the time between two worldwide cataclysms, and it was 1656 years. Now, we have the 138-year mentioning in the Haggadah that the angel of death visits. Every number I just gave you was pulled from ancient sources mentioned many times, like 1242 mentioned by Nostradamus. But every single number I just cited to you is divisible by 138.
I love it. That 138 is tied to the 137, which is tied to the simulation of my research. We have someone else? Oh, yeah, the caller, I can't remember the name. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Do you have another question?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand the timeline, like the fall of the Tartarian Empire, like the buildings that still exist, how all this comes into play. Is it just the same as, like you said, the Mayan, you get to a certain point, but, some stretches are left, some aren't. I'm trying to understand, like, the timeline in there, like, the Great Fires of the 1760s, they seem to be all across the world, not just in one area like Asia.
Right. I see. Well, I have not really studied the Tartarian narrative. I totally disagree with Fomenko because I'm a chronologist. I don't believe in missing centuries. I believe 100% in missing events. Our historical records have been. Well, the Bolsheviks already proved to me, and everything that I've discovered about Bolshevikism, I already know they've taken thousands of historical books to farm them and destroyed them. And any reference to those events. I don't believe we're missing centuries, I believe we're missing events. But if you want to know when these events really occurred, just extrapolate 138 years back in time. Because we had 1902, we had massive destruction that was covered up. We had 1764, more destruction was covered up. Before that, it was 1488. This is when there was great destruction across Tartaria, which is the Russian area. 1488, 1626, then 1488. Then before 1488 was the year 1212. That Phoenix episode was very unusual because that was the year of the mysterious Children's Crusade, where over 1 million children in Europe just vanished. And this is also a trait. This is also a trait of the Phoenix phenomenon. The massive human abductions, total vanishing of population. But,
thank you.
Thanks for the call, my friend. We have someone else calling as well. Liam, welcome to the Syncretism Society. What's your question for Jason?
It is great to be here today. I want to say that I today, just 20 minutes ago, signed up for Syncretism Society. I took the initiative and I spent some money.
Mute yourself, or Henry, can you do that? Okay, let's get somebody else until they unmute themselves. Oh, okay. Okay, so did you find anything in the chat?
I'll have a look at the chat.
Yeah.
This little intro, let me continue with astrology real quick.
Oh, for sure, by all means.
Okay, we have actual Sumerian texts, Akkadian texts, and Babylonian texts, astrological tables that are so meticulous that they almost come off as logarithmic computer diagrams. What this means to me is that it does not matter if we're dealing with compressed stars, frozen luminary, actual suns. It doesn't matter if we're dealing with a real universe of stars or if we're dealing with template of luminaries that are in fixed positions that give us great information, man, by the position of the wandering stars, which are, we're convinced by physics that these are planets. But these wandering stars, which were so studied in antiquity, that we now call them Mercury, we call them Venus, we call them Jupiter, Neptune, and all that, these wandering stars are actually coding protocols by which we can predict events, we can even ascertain historical events. I see astrology as just another way of seeing the actual coding of the simulacrum operative in history, and they're basically our everyday dynamics. There is nothing wrong with astrology if you understand it from the perspective of that's not a rock going around the sun, and that's not a giant some giant planet that is conveying this DNA changes at inception and all that. No, this is when a person is born, wherever the stars are and all that stuff, that has nothing to do with planets and all that. It has everything to do with the actual coding of the simulacrum. It's right there. The ancients believed all the answers to everything was right there in the sky, and I believe they're right if you look at it as computer programming and not look at it as actual Newtonian physics objects.
I mean, either way, right? I mean, if it's astrology, I think, folks, if you're a fan of astrology, it's your eye. It's your eye, by the way. Your 12 house is going to fit inside your iris of your eye. If you take the eye and you pull it out of the face, you have the dome, and you have the earth plane, the black side. All those things are all just a representation of this reality that we're all playing out anyway. It's just another fractal down. And astrology is nothing other than your eye or your eyes if you bring in the chart of the now moment. And I love it because it doesn't matter, Santos, right? In astrology, it doesn't matter if we believe there are planets or if there are buildings up in the sky or they're floating cars going up there. We do know that they affect our lives, and I mean, if you're a fan of astrology, that's no denying that information.
Well, all the ancient astrologers, including Ptolemy, said that all the moon, the sun, the so-called wandering stars, the planets, said they are entirely luminous.
Yeah.
They are not terra firma. The moon is not a rock. You can't land on it. Yes, there are cherubim and seraphim living in there. There are angels and archangels. They are dwelling places of transdimensional beings, as the rishis in India teach that you can go and live on, on the quote-unquote sphere or the field of the moon or the sun, etc. They are portals, they are wormholes. The sun is a wormhole back to cause. The moon is the womb, or the ovaries, rather, of the solar system. And souls come in through the moon. That's why you have a honeymoon, when you get married. Honeymoon, so you can bring children in through the portal of the moon. They are portals, and they are entirely luminous.
Love it.
Yeah. I see someone here mentioned, because Jason said that in 2040 we're going to, have more oppression and less freedom, etc. You've got to remember, guys, that there are various timelines going on simultaneously. Okay, that doesn't mean you're going to be stuck in that one. But rest assured, things will get worse for certain ones. It's what they call hell. It's not a literal place. It's a condition. So that timeline, yes, that will happen. That's going to happen, but not for you. You see, you'll be shifted, as it says in the scriptures, in the twinkling of an eye. You will be transformed. You will be taken to another dimension, another place. You will miss out on that action, but that action is going to take place.
And we could actually provide a really good example of what you just said by the atrocities of World War II. We know that much of the world is going through hell, and hundreds of millions have died. I'm not talking about the official reports. I'm talking about the last 5 years after World War II, where people were being exterminated in China in the millions, where people were being exterminated in Russia. But at that time, look at the United States and Canada, Mexico, having an economic boom. Everything's peaceful. Everything's nice over here. It's the exact same principle applies. There were havens in Europe in the middle of all this chaos that were never touched by war.
That's right. That's right.
just the way it is. Like I said, we create our own informed field.
Yeah.
That informed field is absorbed by the simulacrum and it's turned into fact. As long as you continue to live it. If you stop living it and let fear override that programming, the new programming will be meant for you.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
So basically, we're creating our own fractals. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're living it right.
Yes, by our frequency, we are transporting ourselves either to hell, or to purgatory, or to paradise. There are three conditions. There are basically three conditions in this simulacrum. And so I see it that we are all still now in purgatory. None of us, I don't think, in the audience, except for that troll just 10 minutes ago, are actually living in hell, although we do see hellish condition around us and we see people who are in the condition of hell. I believe we are at the end of purgatory and we are now transiting by our high frequency into the condition of paradise. So we're safe, don't worry, whatever you do not have any fear. These things will take place, but it's not for you to fear. The fear will bring you to that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, the love frequency will bring you to the right place. Rest assured you'll be looked after, you'll be taken care of. Just stay close to syncretism, stay close to the ascension process, purify yourself, get on the right hand path, improve every day. Every day do something that you know is optimizing your soul. Alright guys, look, we're winding down.
We got one more caller.
10 minutes.
Okay,
so just keep in mind, folks, we're going to wind down in 10 minutes, and I want Jason to talk more on.
Okay, this is our last call, so go ahead.
My question is, I think more toward you, Santos, as well. Would this be considered the end of the Iron Age? I think I've heard you say. Do we go straight? Is that when, like, the sun and the universe at the end of the ecliptic? Does it go right back? You said it turns into reverse. How does that affect, or how does that include the red shift, blue shift? How does that play into it in our real world?
I see it now as that there are almost two contrasting opposite things going on. Yes, we're coming out of the Iron Age. Sri Yukteswar, the great student of Kriya Yoga, over 120 years ago, he said that we are already in the Dvapara Yuga. We're out of the Kali Yuga. He said we've left the Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, and that was about 120 years ago. So somewhere, some people are living on this earth, they're living in the Dvapara Yuga, the second Yuga, which is the Copper Age. And so, but then again, there are other scholars and other schools which teach that we're still in a decline. We've still got much more of a decline to go. Alright, so you just have to remember this, like your TV has many channels. If you're on channel 9, you won't be able to see what's on channel 10. You know, there might be a horror film on channel 9, but on channel 10, the most beautiful love story ever, you know. And so we want to get to channel 10. The good one, the good timeline is ours for the taking. Okay? As long as we don't have fear and as long as we are pure. Alright, so let's just...
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Yeah, let's take another quick call. Just quickly directed to Jason, please.
Alrighty, was it hey, this is Eugene from Starfield. I love all your guys' work, but I'll just ask Jason a quick question. The phi and pi is so amazing. Could you go a little bit more, deeper into the misconceptions of, you know, how you said you need to multiply it and all this stuff? And and you know, Phoenix has phi in the beginning, so it's just, I think it's pertinent.
Phoenix does have phi in the beginning. I've never really said my damn cell phone. Phoenix and phi. Hey, it came by long study of historical events of a calculator that I noticed that the unfolding of human events were not natural. They happened too mathematically precise. And I did not find that by looking at multiples of Fibonacci numbers. Fibonacci being a linear projection of phi. They did unfold when we multiply or divide phi by pi or by the number of years between events, and it gives that holographic reflections of future dates when something very similar or something in tandem or something relative or directly connected to those two measured events happen. And I show this in my card over and over. It's not even mysterious to me anymore, but many people have tried to use the Fibonacci series and the golden proportion numbers as a linear projection, like just multiples, 72 plus 72 plus 72 plus 72, or 108, 108, 108, 108, or 444, 444, 444, and try to build systems predicated on those projections. They don't work. They only work for a limited time until we have a pattern collapse, because that's what it is. If you don't recognize, you never understand, the simulacrum is based off quantum principles. Every reality total that we measure has a collapse. It will collapse, it must collapse in order for future events to unfold. And these collapse discontinuities are very measurable, but not in linear projections. And this is what I study, this is what the software I designed, this is how I basically study history. And what's beautiful about it is that I'm not wrong. And I'm not saying that from an ego perspective, I'm saying that I just look at other historical books and find out that the exact same thing I find mathematically is mentioned by this Russian author right here as occurring on this exact date. And I find this in a recording and I show, okay, well look, here's the date this guy said that this happened. Well, here's the actual projection. We have now isolated the data set. So by the construction of thousands of data sets, I do my thesis, which is Chronicon. And it's not done. It's not done. But it goes up to 2012. But I need to rewrite the entire thing. I have 700 pages of notes to add to it. But there's only so many hours in a day. But pi and phi are fantastic if you multiply or divide them. If you just simply add them to each other, you're building an artificial construct that will collapse before you really need it to unfold any information that you're looking for.
Beautiful. All right, look, I'd like to wind down now with just some encouragement to the listeners to subscribe to Archaix. We uploaded, of course, if you go back 2 weeks to episode 41, you'll see that Jason's first interview with us 2 weeks ago got 7.3 thousand hits, and I haven't even put it on Mr. Astrotheology. This one I'm going to put on Mr. Astrotheology, which has 232,000 subscribers, and hopefully it'll get 20-30,000 hits and more subscribers for Archaix, and it gets out there. So Syncretism Society YouTube channel only has about 16,000 subscribers, and yet it's one of our, I just checked, it's one of our biggest hitting viewed videos, and that's pretty impressive, guys. So I'd like to thank very much from the bottom of my heart and everyone here, Jason. We're going to have you back, brother. So what I'd like you to do is, make a probably, if you've got any slides or anything like that, make something especially for our channel, and something, perhaps that you want to, anything new or something structured, and we'll do the same thing with calls. We'll probably have you back in about a month. So how do you feel about that?
Okay, two things. I already have all the materials, the chronology charts and all that. Send me an email and I'll send you those for free. I already have some really awesome, colorful charts that you need to be blown up with the posters that helps you understand the whole Phoenix phenomenon, all that. But also, I don't want to be known as a doomsayer. On my own Archaix channel, I have many videos about our immortality and what it means in the context of simulation theory. If you would like, the next time I come on Syncretism Society, let's talk about our souls and our immortality and what it means in this construct. Because This is where people get lost. They automatically think that because I believe we exist in a computer simulation, that makes null and void the idea of our immortalhood and our spirit. It doesn't. It actually empowers it.
Excellent.
That's a subject we should get into too.
Beautiful. Let's do that. All right. Thank you very much, Jason. Love your work, brother, and I wish you all the best and many, many blessings. May you prosper. May you continue to do your work, and I'm sure you'll have the good transcendentals helping you keep your channel alive as they are keeping mine alive, even though I get booted off Facebook and I get strikes on YouTube and demonetized videos and remove videos, etc. I'm still there, and so I believe we're getting helped, and we are. So thank you very much. Thank you, listeners. Much, much love. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Anne-Marie, for doing the engineering there and what have you. Thank you, audience here in the house.
Thanks, Santos.
Yep.
The great Santos.
Yep.
Yeah, Jason, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I'd love to sit down chat with you for about an hour.
I love being here, and I love talking to you guys, and I deeply appreciate it too. Because like I said, y'all